Hey everyone, it's Luke again. I'm going to talk about a couple things in this response video. First one that I want to talk about is from the Students Helping Students reading, and it's the Principles for Cultural Proficiency. I think it's like the third one down. It's the becoming comfortable with discomfort is necessary to cultural proficiency. And I think that's really important to remember that when we're dealing with cultures outside of our own, we're oftentimes going to become uncomfortable and we're not going to know what to do. And my first reaction when I become uncomfortable is to run. And so I think when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, I have to be able to embrace discomfort, kind of lean into that discomfort. And I think that's really important to remember because oftentimes some of the best growth that we can go through is through discomfort or through just being unsure of what's happening. And it's important to remember that that's okay to be uncomfortable and that we can really grow from that. And I really disliked all the other steps for becoming culturally proficient. The next part that I'm going to talk about is the cultural response matrix. I liked that it tried to simplify all these things of building culture and destroying culture overtly and covertly. But what I didn't like is that it made it seem like you could just look at something like a comment and then put it on that scale for one culture. But realistically, when you make when a comment is analyzed like that, you also have to look at different cultures as well. So what might be destructive to one culture could be viewed as by somebody else as constructive to another culture. And I don't know what a great example of that would be, but I think that my point is that the matrix, while its goal was to simplify, I think we lose a lot of that complexity of the complexity and the nuances of culture and looking at cultures and looking at comments made about them. The next thing that I wanted to talk about were the levels of cultural proficiency. And I've never really thought about this before. I've never thought about being culturally proficient. And the book kind of sets them out, and it doesn't clearly say that these are levels, but it kind of made it seem like they were to me. So you go from sabotage, culturally sabotaging, to being culturally blind, and that was a really interesting one to me. And I think for a long time I was culturally blind, in that I tried to pretend like there were no differences in cultures and that we were all the same. But I really feel like we lose our individuality and what makes our culture special when we try to do that. And so the next step is ignorance. So just moving out of that idea that we're all the same to just not knowing and accepting that we don't know, to becoming aware, to moving into tolerance. And for me, for a long time, I think I was at a tolerance, in that I was like, okay, I understand some things about these cultures and I tolerate them and they're just here and they're just a part of my life and I'm not going to think about it too much. But I think that's a really dangerous place to be in, because being tolerant of something is just kind of pretending like they're not there still. It's like, oh yeah, they're there, but I'm not really going to talk about it. I'm not really going to focus on it. And that can kind of destroy culture. And then finally, the next level above that, though, is fluency. And I think that becoming culturally fluent is where we should all aim to be. And that's kind of the goals of the CRCs, is to help people achieve fluency. And I don't know what being culturally fluent looks like I think it's pretty hard to say that you're culturally fluent in every culture. That's a little bit extreme, but I think becoming culturally fluent in as many as we can is beneficial. And I think that's really kind of part of the goals of the CRCs. The last part of the reading that I liked in Students Helping Students were the tips to becoming culturally fluent, and that the first tip is becoming culturally aware. So just if you don't know something about a culture, just kind of learn a little bit about it. Then you can try to remember to be acceptant of cultures, not to judge or to impart your own biases on a culture, because every culture has nuances and things that might clash with another culture. And so it's important to remember to love cultures for how they are, and that they're the way they are for reasons. Determination. So once again, it goes back to that discomfort, in that most of the times you're going to be really you're going to be really uncomfortable with learning about cultures and trying to let go of your own biases and just remember that everything's going to be okay, and that you just have to push through it. The next one is concentration, in that you just have to, it goes along with determination, but it's try and stay focused on becoming culturally proficient. Just remember that it's really important, and that by doing this you're really going to benefit yourself. And then the last one is harmony, in that remembering that cultures can mesh. You know, we don't have to stay separate, but we can kind of bridge our cultures together and still retain our individuality, but still make those connections, you know, those bridges. And so that was my take on Students Helping Students reading. The next reading, the only thing that I was really critical about was the input, environment, output model. And I really, there were things about it that I really liked, in that it talked about students being truly affected by their environment, and the programs that we do here on campus make a difference in student retention. And we can, it gave me power to know that I can make a difference. But one thing that I didn't like was that it made it seem as though the student's environment is the be-all end-all. Is that everything, the only things that that affect retention is the environment here, and I didn't like that. I thought that completely discredits things like family, or things like crisis, or outside factors that just the university or the learning environment doesn't have a say in. And that can really affect a student's experience and a student's student's rate of retention. And so those were some of the things that I didn't like. I don't know how many of you completely related to the input, environment, output model. If any of you did and just want to tell me more about that, or if you want to connect with me on that, I'd love to hear more about it. But that's all I really have for this week. I hope all of you are having a great week, and I'll see you in class. Bye.